Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
And welcome to Justice Served TV. It is good to have you along. Michael Bryant here. Hello, Linda Kenny Bond.
Hi, how are you, Michael Bryant?
You were busy this morning.
Very. You know what happened? I was running late this morning, and as usual, the music was playing when I was on, and then I expected I'd have, with 10 minutes of bringing us up to date, and then within that period of time, the court had just posted,
Yes.
the media relations officer, that court was canceled for the day, and of course, no one knew why at that point, and there was rumors, and it never was confirmed. And
we still don't know why, do we?
No, we don't know exactly why. I mean, so everybody has one source that says Karen Reed was sick. It makes sense because at first, well, maybe I thought it was canceled, and they do the kids and they Zoom it, and she could be sick. But the court did apparently have a Zoom hearing with Ellen Jackson and Yannetti on Zoom. Now, was that too because the court doesn't trust anything the defense does and get some specifics about Karen Reed and her health? I think so, because the courtroom was closed for that Zoom hearing. And if it was just scheduling, or a juror was sick or something like that, that usually gets announced, right?
Yeah. I mean, it would make sense. Those are personal issues, that don't
HIPAA,
not a lot of public interest.
Right.
Justified public interest. Obviously, people are interested and they're curious. Here's something I'm annoyed
but
about.
before you go annoyed, I also in that 10 minutes got a rant in, which has been posted. Okay.
Oh, well, okay. So you just ranted about your rant, I think. So I tuned in this morning just to make sure, are we on? Is something happening? And then I was jumping around, and I put on, what did I put on? Oh, Defense Diaries. And Bob, at that exact moment, Bob Mata reads the notice from Jennifer Donahue, who's the one who's been avoiding me like the plague, up the media, blah, 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 Supreme Judicial Court, full of themselves media center. And I said, oh, that's probably good to know. So that's when I texted you and WhatsApped you. My point is that because we aren't even allowed the courtesy of a credential, because we're, not really deserving of one. We're not even on the media notice list, the one that they just blast out to everybody. So I sent a follow-up note to Jen.
I saw that. Should we read that? I
actually should have gone further than I did. I was super nice. And believe me, I rewrote it a couple of times, because you find these things that they're very satisfying when you write them. And then when they come back kind of antiseptically and, in just a sterile environment, it looks like this guy's a dick. What did he write this for? Didn't have to do that. I was really just saying, hey, it's been a while since my last request for details about why we were not allowed a media credential. And oh, by the way, the chief here at the courthouse up there in Dedham, Chief Rose, told me that he asked you to follow up and that you promised you would follow up. I'm just following up with your follow-up. And then I said, by the way, at the very least, can you put us on the media list as we continue to cover this matter? Thank you very much. Have a nice day. So that's the person who sent out the notice today, Jennifer Donahue. If you want to blast her, please do so.
Well, I think we should read. I think we should read the letter the email that we sent her.
Which one? One I just wrote. There's not much to it. Not much to it.
But while you're getting it ready, I want to.
Well, am I supposed to do that? I don't have it handy.
Okay, I'll do it. I have it handy. Okay. Why don't you read Gladys Kravitz?
Gladys Kravitz. I love Gladys Kravitz. She was one of my favorite characters on Bewitched. Just got done rewatching Higgins' direct testimony. He says dispatch is a wood door with double glass windows on the right, so that the door he went in. But he said he only waved to Good, who's the officer that was there. And we'll see, because we do have that video. We're going to rerun that video, and we're going to focus on the cross. So I'm glad, Gladys Kravitz, that you watched the direct, because you'll be keyed up and ready to go. You know, what's good about Cross? You know,
And
the
thank you
important
for
thing
your
about
donation
Cross.
too. Thank
Yes.
you for your donation.
The best thing about Cross, it's where you get to the truth, right? It's not on direct, it's on Cross. And so we're going to focus on that. And we'll know I got the right video because Alan Jackson is clean shaven. So that would have been harder for me to screw up getting the wrong one. So
before I read that, it's going to be an episode. Debbie
yes.
D, thank you for your donation. Love you both, and love Linda's brand so much. Yes, we even have a wall art with WTF, and I had to use that word today. And then and we have a song the Oasis Cat has put to it. And so yeah, I believe they're up and running. But let me read this.
I've not heard that song. Okay.
Remember that a media credential gets you into the courtroom, so you actually get put in a randomizer. So you have to have it. Then the Wednesday before the next week is like 2 weeks. You get put into a randomizer, right? You get put into that randomizer, and then you get to see whether you are able to go to court the following week. So it's like a 2-week process. It does not mean you're not media for being in the buffer zone. Okay. And that was one of our arguments. But here we go. And this is the third time we have written about this media credential.
Or called. I've left a lovely voicemail or two as well.
And calls, right? The first time was they come back and said, well, you're not getting one because we don't consider YouTube a journalist, even journalism, even though it's almost everybody, over almost 3 million streams a day on YouTube, right? For this case. And
most important, remember their own definition under Supreme Court Rule 1:19 describes what is and isn't media. And it says very clearly, no matter what form, anything digital, electronic, in writing that deals with, regularly covers matters of public interest. Right. I mean, where does this not fit? And I don't know if I told you this or not, but when I first sent in the application, I got back a request for some of our stuff. So they didn't even bother to go, punch it in and look for it. So I sent them some stuff from whatever the various trials we had been covering, from Penny to even some of the stuff I did for Alex Jones, Waterbury. Anyway, it was then that the final response came back that no, that's we don't consider YouTube media. So right, and that was the last communication of any kind.
So until the buffer zone really actually is a communication of sort. They said you can't walk by 5 times.
That's true.
With your covering.
If the troopers are agents of Jennifer Donahue, perhaps.
Okay. Yeah. So anyhow, today is email to her. Dear Ms. Donahue, I'm still waiting for a response to my recent email regarding your specific reasons for refusing my and Justice Serve TV media credentials for the Karen Reed case. Chief Rose at the Dedham Courthouse also indicated to me he had spoken to you and promised you would, quote, look into it. Please also add this email to your notice list so that at the very least you can provide the bare minimum assistance as we continue coverage of this matter. Thank you, MJB, Justice Serve TV, LLC, Michael Bryant, Esquire, host, executive producer, Justice Serve TV, and then some other things that you have done media as executive producer and all to show your media. So, I mean, we will wait, and we'll keep you updated because I'm sure that we intend to trim this thing to Jennifer Donahue, and I'm sure we intend to put it on our X, Twitter, and YouTube page as a short. Okay? So,
good idea.
There we go. And then while you were doing that, thanks to Generous, been away for a while, but glad to be back. I just super chatted. Yes, here we go. Love Linda's rant, and then full meltdown. Hash values. Higgins vid is proof of perjury from his first trial testimony, in my opinion. Curious how it affects his federal proffer. Okay, we shall talk about all of this. So, Michael Bryant, while I say hello to everybody, we have a show to do now with some real substance to it, right? Thank you all, by the way.
It seems to me, since we've been talking about the buffer zone, that we should go into the Erica story, right? For those who don't recall, yesterday, some point in the day, Erica Walsh, I'm trying to make sure I get her last name correct. I think it's Walsh, right? She was transiting the buffer zone. She was actually leaving wherever she was going. It was not the end of the day, but she was leaving. And she was accosted by some troopers who didn't like what she was wearing. and there was some back and forth. And at one point, well, let's just look at it, and then we'll chat about it afterwards. I talked to Erica last night, and she was really torn up about this because it was a traumatic situation when you're effectively threatened with some sort of arrest. They did not arrest her. They did give her a citation, though. Yeah, I'm not sure what the citation is. Illegal clothes wearing. Anyway, so remember.
I know. They gave her a citation when they made her strip to her bra in their car, and then I probably cited her for indecent exposure.
Oh,
okay.
I see.
I've got it all figured out.
They followed her to the car, and then if she took her clothes off there, and that's unclear, to be honest, that's unclear. Then they cited her for indecent exposure. That's not an outlandish possibility.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. I mean, I'm making this up, quite frankly. But given what we know about these people, yeah.
So when I talked to her, and she was upset about it, and she said she just went home and kind of stewed and thought about it, and was tied up. But I think she's going to come on tomorrow. We're still kind of working out the details, just to get a sense of what she felt, what she was going through. So let me pull this baby up here, and we can look at it. And thanks to Court TV, if I hadn't mentioned this, I think I mentioned it yesterday. Court TV shooter was there, but at the time he was just sitting on the bench. Kind of, it was downtime. And so he whips out his cell phone, captures it that way. And so I basically stole it from Vinny. So that's what we got here.
You have an issue with this before? When you're walking through here with the sweatshirt?
I'm leaving. I'm not congregating. I'm not protesting. I'm leaving.
Right, but what's the rule?
There's no rules about this one. It doesn't say Karen Reed.
It has to do with the case, right?
No, it doesn't. It has to do with something else. A guy whose kid was just murdered. All right, you know what?
I know. All right. Go ahead and screen document.
Take me. Go ahead.
I'm not doing that.
Take me. What? You had guys detain me last week. I asked you to leave.
Go. Are you leaving? Are you leaving? She's leaving. All right, good.
All right, then. So she was willing to put strap the cuffs on. So the audio is horrible, but what you can hear her say is, first of all, I'm just leaving. And then they said, what's the rule? What's the rule? What is this? 5th grade? What's the rule, little Debbie? And she said, this doesn't have anything to do with the Karen Reed case. Now, I just happen to have somewhere, hold on. I had it here a moment ago. I put this in my pocket the last time I was up there. Well, maybe I tossed it. It was the order, and I had that in my pocket because I was ready to whip it out because it very clearly says Karen Reed, supportive material, right? Or even anti-Karen Reed, either side. That is the specific, restricted, prohibited material, not just, hey, dude, you're wearing a sweatshirt I don't like. Okay, so let's take a look at what the sweatshirt says on the back, because then you could decide, is this a Karen Reed prohibited material, assuming that's even legit. Let me get rid of that. Sorry. Let me get rid of that. And we'll get this on here. Hold on. First of all, we think that you can't really restrict anything somebody wears. That's ridiculous. Okay. Criminals control Norfolk County. That's pretty generic. I can't even think how you would twist that into supporting Karen Reed, really. Really.
You know what's even great about this? We had asked Rich if he could possibly come on. Rich owns Microdots, which everyone watches. This is from his store, his generic Microdot store, which does a lot of stuff besides Karen.
There you go. It's almost an ad for him.
Yeah, almost an ad. Just like we have a merch store. This is his merch store, covering Norfolk County, because that's where he is. His merch store, and he modeled it. If you go to his after the there's a clothing store, and the reason why I wore my red top tonight has a reason, because Supreme is a very popular brand, and it is in red chairs, red everything.
Red Solo cups.
Oh no, they don't have a red Solo cup, but very expensive. When Supreme partners with anybody, it sells out. Supreme, just if you don't know Supreme, I'm always trying to go on the real and buy something that's Supreme that I can afford, because even the minor stuff, because it's just so very popular. And he modeled it after a sweatshirt that's sold by Supreme, and they just changed the wording to talk about Norfolk County, which is where the Karen Reed case happens to be, right? So I mean, I think it's not only is it outrageous. I mean, can you imagine? Oh my God, can you imagine? I'm salivating. What I could do on cross-examination here because it involves shopping. Oh
Yes.
my goodness. So anyhow, you can support Microdots by going to the merch store. You can always go to our merch store too, because I'm our biggest customer on our merch store.
There's no
We're
doubt
gonna
about that.
we're
It's not even close. It's not even close.
we're
Yeah.
gonna do I'm gonna do a shopping trip one day. There you go. There's a link to the sweatshirt for drop Microdots. Right there's a product. All right, and then I'm gonna one day do a shopping trip on our merch store and go through everything in our merch store, because our mods and producers work so hard, this especially on getting all these colors of different hoodies up and crop tops for the summer and all. And of course, I had to buy everything that was there.
One of each, please. Yes.
So it'd be like you're going around. You put on your Justice Serve TV. You have your microphone, your little what should we call this? The cube,
It's
cube
a
for the
flag. They're called
microphone.
technically a mic flag. That's the
Yeah,
industry
that's
term. It's a mic
a
flag.
mic flag. Okay, now I have to put
There
my
you go.
mic flag, as you know, doesn't quite sit on
You
my
still have the
microphone.
amateur microphone.
I
You
yeah,
haven't gotten the
I'm gonna
professional
get
version.
one. You're gonna send me the professional version. But and this actually identifies you when you go through as being a part of media. That's why you're going through. You're always, if you notice in our pictures we're using with Karen Reed when she talks to you one-on-one. But what if they said this is a Karen Reed supporting flag
Oh.
because this show has people on that sometimes support Karen Reed? And we have said all the time, look, we are a Constitution show. We believe in the Constitution. We believe that if the state can prove a crime beyond a reasonable doubt, prove it. And that's what we're asking for. But what if they decided that this was inappropriate? Okay.
Well, then they'd be as stupid as they were with the sweatshirt that Erica was wearing. Yeah. They'd have another opportunity to prove how ridiculous they are. So that's I can't wait to talk to her about the citation. I want to know what exactly is the violation.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Well, the rumor had it that they also, when she took off the the sweatshirt, and I don't know if this is true, that she was wearing an Aiden Carney T-shirt, and they didn't like that, and they made her take that off.
Yeah,
And so she
that
stripped down to
obviously
her
the
bra
video
in the
doesn't
car.
the video doesn't prove that. So that's I don't know how much
Well,
of that, if any of it, is true.
True.
But the funny thing is, and not so funny, with everything we've seen happen there, from the ripping off of the sticker of Mr. Delgado to counting how many times I've gone up and down the sidewalk, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not like you immediately dismiss it as that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're thinking, wonder if that really happened. Did they make this woman take off a sweatshirt and then a shirt beneath it because they were somehow violating, in their minds, the buffer zone?
Now, the most interesting thing about this today, as you know, the first buffer zone case, you know this better than I with your attorney. You're the second buffer zone case. The first buffer zone case, the buffer zone was ruled basically unconstitutional. And the court sent it back to the lower court to say we draw it. Or, of course, Judge Beverly Canoni can, on her own, redraw the buffer zone. Then what has it been? Silence. Okay.
I thought you said I see dead people. Okay,
silence. Now today, apparently, the court, your attorney made a motion that for emergent relief, they shouldn't have to wait to the stay. They should do something now because it's ruled unconstitutional. And apparently, the court did get a little tired of not getting any response from the Commonwealth, and so they have asked the Commonwealth to file a response immediately because they have not done so on what their position is on redrawing it. Just silence, okay?
A lot of pocket vetoes. And let's face it, the stay is over in 5 hours and 45 minutes. So, the motion to be relieved from the stay becomes moot in 5 hours and 45 minutes. And that's apparently what the Commonwealth has decided to do. I asked Mark, though, Mark Randazza, I said, is there some plan? Because the First Circuit very clearly said, here, we're handing this back to the federal district court, the lower level court. But we need somebody to figure this out. And if they don't, we will. I wanted to know, what's the time frame for that? Because you could diddle around and effectively have a pocket veto on that as well if you wait a week, 2 weeks. Okay, well, maybe the last couple of weeks or so of trial, you have it resolved. But this has an emergency status to it. That you can't, this is not a big large issue that we can ponder for the next few months and then come up with some decision. You got to decide now. And if the court, Judge C, doesn't want to take advantage of really, I think, a gift they've given her, which is, we're going to give you a chance to fix this yourself. This is your buffer zone. Fix it. Fix it. And if you don't, then we'll step in and do it. They didn't have to do that. They could have just, they smacked her down, but then they could have said, further, here's where we think is appropriate, or there should be no zone. That's a possibility.
Right.
There could
They
be
could
no
say
buffer zone. They could say that.
They could say that. They go like New York, where, you know, it's like the steps, and then that's basically it. And it's not even a buffer zone. It's just that, hey, media, for safety, you got to like move out of the way. I mean,
Yeah, part the C. Yes.
Even when President Trump was in court, right? You just go. Anyone's familiar with 100 Center Street? There's these big steps that you go into the courthouse. There's actually two sets of them. One, the jurors go in. One, all the litigants and everyone goes in. And right across the street is this beautiful park, right? I mean, you just literally cross, and it's a very small street. It's not like a 2-lane highway, right? And everyone is right there. It's ridiculous.
And just imagine, I mean, even bigger crowd than Trump, the Diddy trial and Weinstein, both in that very small corridor right now, today.
Right. Because you got the federal courthouse, which is right across the street, which is also there. I mean, so this case, they must think this case is Sacco and Vanzetti. Okay, that's what they must think. People are out there with guns or something like that. It's not. It's not. And look at the protesters. And I would argue that your case is the most urgent one right now, because you're going to go back and you're going to go back into that buffer zone. Tommy CPU, I mean, they've given you a little bit of street cred.
They have given me a little bit of a pass, no doubt.
I think mainly because we've been on it, we've been tweeting about it, and they've let you come in and they've let you interview Karen Reed, as we saw. She answered your questions, right? And all. But you got Mr. Delgado, who wants to use his rights, right? Just walking through, and he was ripped up, and he's the third case because they've separated these cases out. But maybe they should have separated them out. First of all, we thought they were a little wrong, but maybe it turns out they should have, because you've got some real guidance on this one. Maybe. Of course, if you go in and get arrested, then it really is an emergency situation.
Yeah, it could be. And you're right about, the tone that the media folks get if it looks like, oh, this guy is one of the folks suing the state. Why we're not going to give him a credential? It sounds retaliatory, right? Like,
right.
Whatever reason we decided not to do it in the first place, that doesn't matter now. You sued us, we're screwing you. There's no way we're going to help you now.
And we're not even going to answer you. We're not even going to answer you, right?
Yeah, and that's just so immature. Where are we? Grade school? You're so busy. Ooh, I can't possibly send an email. Give me a break.
Think about this. There was a day that Judge Beverly Cononi had all day, except for like 15 minutes at 11 o'clock for the Zoom hearing, which may have been to support what, either scheduling or support. She wanted proof that Karen Reed was sick, because I wouldn't put that past her, right? She had all day. She had all day to address this urgent thing from the federal court.
Maybe she's working on it. Maybe she's working on it right now.
Yeah, the easy part that would have been, we're going to go back to the first buffer zone, which went to the Massachusetts Supreme Court, but I don't think that ever went to the federal court. Mark Randazzo.
No, and that's a very interesting point, because is that going to satisfy people at this point, right?
Right.
There's a gut feeling like, great, we got back what we got last time where they screwed us. Now we're happy just to get what we got last time, which is, that's such a mind bleep, because it's not right. It should never have been there last year in any form. You can have crowd control issues. You don't have to have sanitized areas like they're suggesting.
Right.
I mean, you mentioned Manhattan. You go to any of those courtrooms, you're going to hear whatever's going on the street, good, bad, or otherwise. Oh, I have a secret tip for you if you're going into 100 Center Street. As you mentioned, there are two entrances. There's actually one on the back as well, but the two that are on the front, right, on the main street.
That's what I'm talking about, right?
As you're walking toward the courthouse from the subway, most people would get there. They're not getting, maybe you're getting dropped off in a town car. I don't know. But if you're coming from the subway side, looking at the courthouse, walking right to left, there's a right entrance, and then you walk past the main part of the building, and then there's a left side entrance. Go past the right side entrance. Go to the left side. It's the same security measures. It's the same. You come into the same lobby, but everybody defaults to that first door. So it's always packed.
Right.
and
The
it
first
takes
was back, right.
forever. And the
Right.
other guys on the other side are like loving it because nobody's going over there. And you really don't even notice till you're into the building. Then you look over and go, what the hell? How come nobody's over there?
That's where they
So,
send the jurors to come in. They send the jurors when you have jury duty. That's where you go in.
yeah.
Because
Well,
I've been there.
go
I've
that
been there a
way.
number of times. I've been there.
It's
And
open to
there's
the public.
also,
Go
yeah,
that
and
way.
there's, as you said, there's a back entrance, a side entrance, because when I had Jason Williams there in that courthouse, the way you get your bail is over on that side. And, usually, you'll have somebody who's dealing with high profile cases from the New York City Police Department. And their goal is to get you out so that you're not mobbed by the people. And there's that backside entrance that, as you mentioned, that you go out of, and no one's ever there. Quite frankly, the media is mainly lazy because they really, or cheap, because really what you should do is have people stationed all around and all. So, but they never do. So that's why it's always pretty clean to get a sort of a getaway. I'm going to call it.
And the people there are great. The clerks, the bailiffs, the court officers, they're great. They see it all every day, and they're very accommodating, very helpful. They're very serious. Like when the Penny trial was underway, there were so many officers in the court, but they were cool. They kept things under control.
They're used to it. They're used to having this kind of trial. They're used to having celebrities. And celebrities go for their civil suits. They're used to it. It's not a big deal in New York City. Apparently, it's a big deal in Norfolk County. Apparently, I gather.
Yes, it is. It is. Okay, so speaking of that, let's recap where we are and what we don't know yet.
And what are we going to do? We haven't even started the specifics, right, of the show yet.
Well, we'll get to it. We haven't even, really figured out what happened today. Nobody knows for sure. There's a lot of speculation, all kinds of stuff. I think tomorrow will be telling. If they are off again tomorrow, then I think it's less likely a health issue and more maybe some sort of procedural issue or something that because how are you so sick you can't make it today, but then tomorrow you're okay? Unless it's a peripheral player that they needed today, not Karen Reed, maybe not one of the key attorneys, but somebody else. I can't remember the name of name sounds like Woke, but I don't think it's Woke. He's their Kokomo. He's the defense team's Kokomo. He's the guy who sits back there and he's got all the gadgetry. I'm pretty sure it's Woke, but I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think so.
For somebody like that, they need somebody like that on a day they're going to be using.
They'll just say, the court will just say, we'll work it out. We'll get the prosecution plate. We'll work that out. It's got to be somebody who was, if it was sick. I mean, and look, if you have the flu and you're throwing up one day and that kind of stuff, everyone knows that if you go to the health emergency room and they give you all sorts of stuff. I talked about the situation that I was when I was trying Hernandez, that I was in the emergency room at Mass General with my eye, having to get drops to make the eye sort of like not hurt, right, and having having a lash pulled out because I had scratched my cornea and all. And the next day, it was my witness I was supposed to do, and somebody took it over, and no one cared. The next day I came in, and because it was a scratched cornea, I had to wear sunglasses. And do you think one person said, even the judge, why are you wearing sunglasses?
I'm sure the jury wondered.
I'm sure they would too.
The jury thought, "Oh, look at her! Look how fancy she thinks she is."
Let me tell you a little hint. I never took off. Okay, don't tell anybody.
What?
I never took off my hospital bracelet. Okay,
Okay.
and I was up there with a witness. I never took off my hospital bracelet.
So people were feeling sorry for you.
Well, people could probably figure out where I was, because even the judge wanted to know, and the defense team wouldn't tell her because it's a health issue. Unless I release it, they don't have no right to know. And since somebody was taking over, there was 3 attorneys, we were dealing with it and switching off because on the case and all. And sometimes I take somebody's witness, they take mine. That's what happened. So I never took off the hospital bracelet. Anyhow, it's a little secret. Go back and look at the videotape. It's on YouTube.
See if it's on. Zoom in on that.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to my original point. If it's a serious illness, then they'll be out tomorrow too. That's my thought. If it's less serious, then they'll be back at it tomorrow, and we'll probably never know the real details as to why they took the day off. But they did, and so people are they're going through withdrawal. Because they aren't getting their Karen Reed fix. We saw this with the Depp case. There's a few cases that come along where, people have worked this into their lives somehow, for better or worse. And it's not there one day. Oh my God, what am I going to do? So we just thought, not exactly genius. I said, well, let's just do Higgins' testimony from last time. We don't know whether he's going to testify or not this time. I kind of hope he does, because remember, there was an area of inquiry that was shut down by the judge that Bukhenik did not have personal knowledge of, and only Higgins would have. So it's going to depend on whether the defense thinks he's critical on those issues. I don't think the prosecution wants this guy up there, right?
Yeah, but I don't think the defense does. I think they do, but the danger of having somebody and having Hank Brennan use them then as their witness is kind of dangerous. So
I don't know. I say, Hanky, good luck. Do your best. I want to grill Higgins. I want to stick it to him. So what we've got here. Oh, I have a. This is very exciting, even if it blows up in my face. I've got a new toy skill here. Everybody who's done this kind of stuff is like laughing at me.
I'm getting company because my nose has been itchy all day.
Is that what that is?
Company, yeah.
I didn't know. Is that what that means?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Either that or I'm bewitched.
Yeah, that I can see. I've always played stuff from a download because just that's the way I've done it. I've never done it from a live tab, which allows you to change the speed. And so this may become a major mess. I can't guarantee anything, but I'm going to give it a try.
A tab. I've heard that before. A tab.
A tab. You've heard of tab. And it's not, well, I opened this at 2:27 and that's when I first started looking at it. But right now it's at 6:30. So this tab might reflect a different time than we really are looking for. But I'm going to do this anyway. And this will allow us, I think, some opportunity to stop, start, move it through. This is, I think I have done this at, let me see if I have this right here, at 1.5 speed. Or it's 1.25 speed. 1.5 got a little too jittery for me.
Victim witness advocate. I believe her name is Kristen Collins. ADA McLaughlin, ADA.
I want to turn your attention now to January.
Okay.
What was your assignment with the ATF back in 2022?
I was assigned to the Bridgewater field office, but I was full-time with the United States Marshal Service doing fugitive apprehension.
And where were you physically officing out of?
Well, I continue to maintain the office at Canton PD.
Okay, but to be clear, you were a federal officer, not a Canton police officer on some sort of a task force with Canton PD, correct?
No, I was not on a task force with Canton PD.
But you did have an office at Canton PD based on a personal relationship that you had with the chief, correct? He gave you this office as a courtesy. Is that right?
So if I can explain.
Yes or no? Was it provided as a courtesy?
Well, working partnership, I would say.
And you've been asked that specific question in a prior hearing, correct?
Yes.
In June of 2023, right?
Yes.
And you explained, look, there was a personal relationship that I had with Chief Berkowitz.
I did.
It was born out of
Tragedy.
a family tragedy that he was aware of.
Horrible tragedy, yes.
And based on that personal friendship and that personal relationship, he offered you the convenience of officing out of Canton PD.
I would say that's a good summary.
And in addition to just having an office there, you also had a key card access, correct?
I did, to get in and out.
What was the name that you used? You said it was a proxy card?
I think it's called, I think in the IT world, it's probably called a proxy card. That's what I know it to be.
So you had both a physical office and full access to Canton PD, all based on the friendship and relationship and convenience. The friendship and relationship you had with Chief Berkowitz and the convenience that he wanted to give you for having that office there, correct?
No, I wouldn't say full access. I had access to certain areas within the department.
Well, you certainly had access to and from your office.
Yes.
You had ingress and egress to the Canton Police Department.
Yes,
You could go in and out of the Sally Port.
I could.
You could go upstairs to Chief Berkowitz's office.
Yes.
You could go downstairs to the dispatch area, which is on the first floor, correct?
Yes.
And then you could go out to the Sally Port, into the Sally Port, across that garage, those 2 bay doors at your leisure.
Well, that would exclude the evidence room, the arms room, and places like that. I didn't have access to those places.
Right. But the places that
So this is critical for 2 reasons. First of all, you get to hear how Alan Jackson, it's not like he's never heard of the Canton Police Department. He's got the schematic, the blueprints in his head, right?
No, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
And Higgins, with what he's just described, is so critical because we now have seen the video of him lumping away. I've been calling him lumping around the building. And so, he knows his way around and he knows what he has access to.
I just mentioned you did have access to.
Yes, absolutely.
You'd had that office for what, back in January 2022, probably had that office for more than 3 years?
I would estimate probably sometime around 2018.
2018, okay,
Yeah.
not 18 years, 2018.
No, 2018. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My apologies.
So, maybe close to 4 years.
Yes.
I want to turn your attention, Mr. Higgins, to January 28, January 29, 2022. By the way, I should ask another foundational question. Are you currently still at ATF?
Am I employed by ATF?
Correct.
Yes, I am, a special agent, yes.
And what is your current billet or your assignment?
Objection.
Is that something you're free to discuss?
I'm assigned to division operations at this time.
Okay, what does that mean?
That's,
You're taken out of the field?
was I taken out of the field? Yes.
Are you no longer in the field?
Objection, Your Honor. Move to strike.
Sustained, let's move on. You may be able to come back to this.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to turn your attention now to January 28, 29, 2022. You recall those dates?
I do,
You've been living with those dates for the last couple of years.
like a nightmare.
John O'Keefe's body was found outside your friend Brian Albert's house on the morning of January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes,
You've previously testified that on January 28th, you had gone to New York for this memorial service, correct?
funeral service, yes.
The funeral service, not the memorial, you separate the two?
So, well, the wake would be the night before, funeral, I call them the services. It
All right.
wasn't a memorial. Memorial to me would be more of like an annual thing. This was the services.
Understood.
Just want to be clear.
So you went with Brian Albert, Kevin Albert, and Eddie Hernandez, is that right?
I traveled down there myself, but I met up with them.
To go to the services.
Yes,
Is it fair to say that you and Brian Albert and Kevin Albert sort of run in the same social and professional circles?
I mean, without speaking for anybody else, I think we know a lot of the same people.
Go to some of the same holiday parties, for instance,
Yes,
go to some of the same events, whether they're law enforcement events or otherwise.
retirement parties, yes, things like that.
Might meet up at a bar and have a social drink together,
Yes,
might share a meal together, correct?
yes,
And you would agree that you particularly are pretty well connected to the Canton law enforcement community.
could you qualify that, explain that?
You know quite a few cops, right?
Well, it's a small department, so I do know everybody in the building in some capacity.
Okay, so my question is, you know quite a few cops in Canton.
I do,
You're pretty good friends with, as a matter of fact, maybe best friends with the chief of police, former chief of police, Kenny Berkowitz, correct?
yes,
You know Brian Albert, he's a Boston police officer.
yes,
You know his brother and work with his brother at Canton PD, correct?
yes,
So it's fair to say, back to my original question, you're relatively well connected in the law enforcement community, the fabric of that community in Canton. Is that right? Is
well, I think that comes with working with people, yes,
that yes or no?
yes,
Okay. As a matter of fact, you've even given a personal toast at one of these events, these retirement events, et cetera, correct?
Chief Berkowitz, yes,
And during the course of that toast, you even said, if you want to hide a body, Kenny Berkowitz is your man, correct?
Objection.
Did you
Oh,
say
sure.
that? Did you say that?
I don't recall that.
You don't remember telling that joke in front of a room full of folks?
I don't,
If you want to hide a body, Kenny Berkowitz is your man?
I don't.
You will agree that some of your closest friends are some of the more powerful people in Canton in terms of politics and law enforcement, right?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
At that same retirement dinner, there were members of the DA's office there, correct?
Yes,
Matter of fact, the DA, Michael Morrissey, was there.
I believe he was at one point.
All right. And that was the same event that you gave either a keynote speech or some sort of a speech for Chief Berkowitz's retirement. Is that right?
Yes.
How long have you known Brian Albert specifically?
I think I had some interaction with him when I was on the Cambridge Fire Department in my capacity in fire investigations. And then I would say pretty much through my entire career at ATF, you know, I came into contact with Brian.
Give me a number of years.
Well, I've been with ATF now for 15 years. I've probably known him at least that whole time.
You'd say that you have both a social and professional working relationship with him?
I would say, yes, he's a friend.
Frequently drink together,
We have drank together. I wouldn't say frequently, but yes, we've drank together.
break bread together, have meals together.
Absolutely had lunch.
As a matter of fact, you were asked at a prior hearing whether or not you could put a number on the number of times that you've had drinks with Brian Albert. You said somewhere around 50 or something like that, or under. Actually, you said under 50.
Under 50, I think I might have said 30.
And that was in 2 years, correct?
Yes.
So not under 50 in the entirety of your relationship, a 15-year relationship with Brian Albert. Literally in the prior 2 years, when you gave your testimony in June of 2023, in those 2 years, met up with him and had drinks under 50 times.
Was that a question?
Yes.
Well, could you rephrase it?
Sure. Is it true that you testified, answer, quote, I mean, in 2 years, I mean, maybe under 50, end quote. That was your testimony to how often you socialized with Brian Albert, correct?
So we socialized more when I started working with his unit.
Okay. So my question is, well,
I don't know the exact number, but yes, we socialized. Absolutely.
that's all I was getting at.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, there's no secrets here, right? He's my friend.
Mr. Higgins,
Not get defensive.
let me ask the questions. I get it.
That's fine.
I get it. You also know Brian Albert well enough to know what his relationship with, for instance, the other guy that you traveled back from New York with, Eddie Hernandez.
I do know Eddie Hernandez. I actually know Eddie the longest out of everybody.
So you knew Eddie, or Officer Hernandez. before
Objection,
you
Your
ever
Honor.
knew-
Ask the question.
You knew Officer Hernandez before you ever knew Brian Albert.
Yes.
You knew him before you even knew Kevin Albert.
Yes.
And you're aware that there was a physical altercation
Objection,
between
Your Honor.
Brian Albert and Eddie Hernandez that you're aware of, correct?
The objection sustained.
Are you aware that Brian Albert had gotten into a fist fight with Eddie Hernandez?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you at a Christmas party when that happened?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained as to that form. You can be specific.
Have you ever been at an event with Brian Albert and Eddie Hernandez and seen them fight?
Objection.
Christmas 5 years or so before 2022.
Okay, the objection sustained.
You do know that Brian Albert has a reputation for being a fighter.
Objection.
Sustained.
That's ridiculous. I mean, I understand to the form, you need to narrow down the time, can't be vague and ambiguous and overbroad. But once he's done that, what's the roadblock?
Well, that's what she said. Ask it differently. He narrows it down. He says, and she still keeps sustaining it. You know,
It's just hard to understand how that can be done. Is it a different law school? So I don't understand.
You were asked in a formal interview. Do you recall? I want to make sure I'm clear about some of your prior statements. You had a formal interview with some folks prior to your testimony at a prior proceeding. You understand what I'm talking about?
I'm tracking.
Okay. At the formal interview, which is what I'm going to call that.
Okay.
The formal interview, you were asked about Brian Albert and his reputation. Were you not? Yes or no?
Yes.
You indicated in that formal interview that even Chief Berkowitz was
Objection.
quote, a little afraid of Brian Albert.
All right, so that is the objection sustained. That's stricken. I'll see you at sidebar.
The
Mark?
sidebar.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. You're also relatively close friends. In addition to being close friends with Brian Albert, you're also relatively close friends with his brother, Kevin, correct?
I am.
Kevin Albert is a detective with the Canton Police Department. Is that right?
Yes.
And you've worked in the same physical office with him for a number of years.
Physical building.
Physical building, that's a better way to put it.
It's different.
Is that right?
Yes.
And it's fair to say that
He's
you've
very-
consulted with Kevin
he's
Albert on certain of his
interesting.
cases.
you notice how he says, I just want to be clear. And he's very specific about his words and all here. First time I'm picking that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and usually that over-explaining is a tell, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
By the way, Scotty has joined our chat. Scott McGinnis.
Scott McGinnis, hasn't he been ghosting you?
Scott,
weren't
he's
you
been
looking
ghosting
for
me. I
him?
know. I've been looking for him. I'm trying to get him to be on the air with me. But I was at Aiden's hearing at Worcester, Massachusetts Superior Court, holding my free turtle boy sign, told by the court officers to go across the street. They cited Massachusetts General Law 268, 13A,
Oh, my
picketing a court statute, LOL. But at least they told you to go across the street. I mean, I guess, Scott, that's something. I don't know.
I guess. And Scott was by himself. So there's one guy there with one sign and they still have to give him shit. I mean, come on. So more importantly, what was the outcome? Can you
Scott,
let's go to Justice Serve TV reporter Scott McGinnis. If you're around, Scott, let us know. We'll send you a link and get an update from you.
Yep.
And
then I'll really corral him.
Yeah, that'll be tough to avoid the LKB in that situation.
I've assisted.
And you've also socialized with him, shared drinks with him,
Yes,
gone
I
out to
have.
bars with him. Is that right?
Yes, I have.
It's fair to say that you know the Albert family relatively well.
I would say that I know Brian and Kevin the best.
On January 28th, you drove your Jeep Wrangler to the Hillside Bar to meet up with Brian Albert for drinks, correct?
I did.
You said you drank 3 to 4 whiskey sodas at the Hillside. Is that right?
It'd be Jameson and ginger, not whiskey soda.
My mistake. Jameson and ginger.
Hey,
Jameson
very
is Irish whiskey,
specific.
It is.
and ginger is ginger ale.
Yes.
Okay. What was Brian Albert?
It's like his belief is that if he makes these little corrections and little nudges to the questioning, that he looks better, which I think is total misperception. He looks like he's jousting with the guy, and they haven't even gotten to anything substantive yet, right?
Right.
Albert drinking?
If I was to guess a beer.
I don't want you to guess. Do you know what he was drinking?
No, I don't.
He was drinking.
He was
something?
drinking something.
Okay. Alcohol.
Yes.
You two were probably going round for round. In other words, finish a drink, get another round for the two of you, finish it, get another round.
I don't think no, I wouldn't say we're going round for round.
So he was nursing one beer while you had 4 Jamesons?
Well, it would have taken, say that again?
He was nursing one beer while you had 4 Jamesons? What you say?
No, he was maybe he had more beers than I had Jamesons is more what I would say.
Okay, so maybe he had 5 or 6 beers while you had 4 Jamesons.
I'm not going to put a number on it because I don't know.
But it was more.
More than what?
More than you.
Maybe. He wasn't there that long.
Well, it doesn't take that long to drink a beer, does it? If you're sort of thirsty and in a hurry.
Is that a question?
Everything I say up here is a question.
Okay.
Just presume that.
Well, all right. So
Well, that wasn't, so.
So let's, question. Yes, Mr. Higgins, that was a question.
It was a question. He said, if you're in a hurry, it doesn't take long to drink a beer. If you're in a hurry, that's a question.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let me put a question mark at the end of that.
okay.
It's your memory that Brian Albert had more drinks than you did when you had those 3 to 4 Jameson and Gingers.
To be honest with you, I wasn't keeping track.
He left Hillside and you stayed, correct?
For a short time, yes.
You later changed your mind and ultimately decided to go to the waterfall. You finished whatever you're eating or drinking and decided to go over to the waterfall, right?
Yes, because I'm always saying I'm going to show up and then I kind of do the Irish exit. So I decided it was a long day. It was an emotional day and I decided to join them.
Did you drive your vehicle over there
Yes, I did.
after having as many as 4 whiskeys?
Yes.
Brian Albert, did he drive himself?
Well, I didn't see him. I dropped him off in Boston PD district down there in Charlestown. And I'm assuming he drove back towards that way to meet me.
He wasn't with anybody else.
Not that I know of.
So he was drinking at the Hillside bar and then got in his car and drove over to the waterfall as well.
I didn't see him drive over, but I assume that's what he did. Yes.
You went to John O'Keefe's house. I'm going to shift gears for a second. You went to John O'Keefe's house at some point to watch the Patriots game on January 16th, right?
Yes.
That was the time when you indicated that when you left, Karen gave you a kiss goodbye, correct?
Yes.
It's safe to say that that was not some hot, passionate, long kiss, but you think it was more than just a friendly peck, correct?
I wouldn't describe it as a peck. I describe it as more than friends. It was a kiss.
Well, you did describe it as a peck, didn't you?
When?
When you texted Karen Reed and she said it was just a peck, and then you texted back, I agree.
Figure of speech.
Or the truth, right?
Figure of speech.
After that incident, it's safe to say, we've just gone through a number of them, you exchanged flirtatious texts with Miss Reed. Is that right?
Is the incident you're referring to when she kissed me?
No, I'm saying after that. After that incident, yes, after the Patriots game,
Okay. Yep.
you exchanged flirtatious texts
We did.
with Miss Reed.
I did.
And that was over the course of a few weeks, a couple of weeks, but just 9 days. Is that right?
So it was between the January 12th and I would say before the 28th, because the 28th, she didn't respond. And the 29th, she sent that last text that John died.
Well,
Those
Sasha,
weren't,
You've looked at the text, right?
I have.
You just looked at the last couple of texts.
I did.
The last text that she sent of any substance was January 23rd, right? Almost a
Well,
week.
I think the text,
Almost a
I think the
week.
text on the 29th, John died, there's substance there.
Okay, I'm not suggesting, I'm talking about after you said, well, on
Yep.
the 28th, right? The text of substance between the two of you, talking between the two of you, not the John died text. That substance ended on the 23rd, didn't it?
I'd have to have the text in front of me to agree with you.
I think it's right here, Mr. Jackson, right in front of the exhibits right there.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes.
So this is important. We remember how all of these texts unfolded through the lovely recitations of Bukhenik. I had actually given them a bigger period of time for this whirlwind text romance. I thought it was closer to the first, and then we knew on the 23rd it was ghost time. Well, it was the 12th because that's when the Patriots game happened. That's when the peck or not happened. So now we're talking about this 11-day period where they were a flurry of texts back and forth. There were, you're hot. No, you're hot. I think, hey, how long do you think that? And then, and then it flames out, and we're still unclear as to why. Whether, there had been a sampling of the goods and there was a dissatisfied customer, we're not sure. But it was very clear by the 23rd that she had no further interest. This gentleman, Mr. Higgins, may have, because he kept reaching out, including that night at the bar on the 28th. What was it again? He texted then. He said, what was it? Just like a "what's up" kind of text. I don't remember the exact wording. It wasn't a sup. It was something like that. But it's basically like, I'm here, you're here. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, it was a different word at that, but he said, something.
Like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
You're ghosting me.
Right,
I'm 5 feet from you. If you remember that in that video, he's near the corner of the bar and she's separated maybe by John O'Keefe. No, I think John O'Keefe was on the other side at that point. She's separated by one person. I mean, he could have reached over and touched her, right? But he's over there. He's given the sly texting going on. And she still didn't respond. So, you know,
But
so
you
he's,
say the word. It was very interesting because you said, remember they were texting, "You're hot." No, you're hot. No, you're hot.
yeah.
I picked up on that, and I asked our audience to go look at this. My recollection on the day that John O'Keefe on the 28th was having those texts with Karen Reed, and she was saying that she couldn't pick him up right now. She was late because she was waiting for the plumber to fix. I think he said, so was the plumber hot too, or is the plumber hot? He said something about the plumber being hot, okay? And that's so close to when they're texting about hot. If that word is in there, to me, that proves that O'Keefe knew that, you know, something was going on with these two, or as his words, he was sussing it out. And she even mentioned something about, he kept asking about the walk to the car, that John O'Keefe walked to the car. But the word hot, you know, you don't normally say that about a plumber. Is the plumber hot? You know,
well, I don't know.
or is the
People have
plumber hot?
fantasies. I don't
Or is the
know.
plumber hot too, or something like that?
Yeah,
But you guys
that
can
word
go check it.
"to" to me is as important as the word "hot."
If
because
it's
you could
there, and
just-
I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly.
okay, because you
but
could say, "Oh, was the plumber hot?" Maybe there's some inside joke between you or something about using that word. But if you say "hot too," it suggests that he knows that she has labeled somebody else hot.
So that's why I'd like our viewers to go back and look at those texts that were read from Karen Reed with John O'Keefe and Karen Reed that day that she eventually did. Yes, hot too. Yes, plumber hot too. O'Keefe did text that. So my recollection was right. So when he says that, it didn't mean much to me. But when those texts were then read so beautifully read by Bukhenik the other day, and no, you're hot. To me, when John O'Keefe knew when he said, "Is the plumber hot too?" Okay,
Yeah.
so there's your motive.
So here's another question: how did he know? Was it because
On
she
her
shared
phone.
it with him? Was it because he just looked at her phone?
Yeah.
Because there's a big difference between, talk about a difference across the spectrum of a relationship. A relationship so open that she said, "Oh, by the way, I was having some, you know, conversations with Higgins, and you know, I told him he's kind of hot." That's one level of relationship, very rare. The other level is, I'm going to look at your phone while you're not around. That may be closer to what was going on here, because we know they were having issues. John O'Keefe and Karen Reed were having issues. Geniality says, I would describe it as more than friends. That description by him is insight on how he felt about her. Yeah, that's usually the way, I won't say jilted, because I don't think they got to the point where you could be jilted. But if you've been kind of shunned and given the cold shoulder, you always think that it's more than it might really be in her mind.
By the
So
way,
I
Scott,
agree, Geniality.
Yeah, that's great. Scott did answer. I didn't feel like arguing with the court official today in Worcester, Massachusetts, so I went across the street. I was on the glare and trying to learn what was going on with Aiden. I was not cited. Okay.
So he was passive aggressive today, decided not to make a big deal out of it. But we still don't know what happened in the hearing. So get back to us with that report, please. Come on. We're going to have to dock your pit.
Okay, are you directing me to the 23rd?
I'm directing you to the last page. Just look at everything on it and tell me if that refreshes your recollection. This is the last substantive text about you and Karen before your well.
Yes, it'd be the 23rd at 9:40.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. So it was 9 days of texting between the two of you, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And aside from the kiss goodbye, you two never had any sort of physical contact with one another.
Do you mean intimate when you say physical?
Correct.
Yes.
I'm not talking about shaking her hand, Mr. Higgins.
Well, I want to answer your question truthfully.
I would like you to too. You didn't have any physical intimate contact with Ms. Reed, correct?
No, I did not.
There was no other hugs or kisses or certainly no sex.
No.
And when she said, "I'm glad you came over tonight," in one of those texts that you just read a few minutes ago, she was referring to the Patriots game with John there and a big crowd there, correct?
Yes.
Over the course of that week or so, Ms. Reed did explain her feelings about her relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, correct? In text messages.
During the pendency of our communication, she did express,
Right.
yes.
And she indicated that there's a difference between being married to someone and dating someone, et cetera. We saw those texts. Is that right?
Yes.
She also indicated that in terms of the situation in Aruba, she was upset by that, but it's not that big a deal, correct?
It was clear to me she was upset.
And she said, "I don't care too much about that other girl," right?
Well, at least that's what she said in text, yes.
That's what I'm asking you. Is that what she said in text, Mr. Higgins? It's not a trick question.
That's what she said in text.
Right. She said something along the lines of, "I'm just trying to be realistic. There's cracks in the relationship. It's far from perfect." Is that right?
I think that's something she texted.
All right. And you'll agree that during the course of these texts, you were constantly asking for clarity and explanation from her, were you not?
During our communication, I did ask for clarity.
Many times. You
Yes.
saw it, correct?
Yes.
And she pretty much wouldn't answer you, correct?
She was non-committal, I would say.
Which is why you were saying in your texts, why won't you answer the question? And she would parry and not answer that one either, correct?
Well, I didn't want to be stuck in the middle of anything.
That's not my question. I'm asking you whether or not she would answer your question about clarity specifically.
She avoided questions about text.
Right. And that was frustrating because you were very interested in her romantically at that point, correct?
I was attracted to her. I don't know that I would say very interested in her.
You texted things like, why did you get my number and reach out? That's a quote from the text we just read, correct?
I did ask that, yes.
You said, now what? Is that right?
Yes.
You texted, so now what? Correct?
Yes.
You texted, I would hang out, meaning with you.
Yes.
Correct? You were showing interest in her.
Yes.
You're showing romantic interest in her.
I wouldn't say it was romantic. I was trying to vet it out.
Well, you weren't seeing if she wanted to go see a ball game with you as a buddy, right?
Not really, no.
No, you were showing romantic interest in her, weren't you?
I was trying to vet out was her interest in me legitimate. It was very normal for me to have that question in my mind when I didn't initiate this, she did. And I think it was a fair question just to try to find out.
You were showing romantic interest in Karen Reed, weren't you?
I was interested, but I don't think I was at the romantic phase.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to stop for two reasons here. First of all, this is guy talk. You know, guys don't talk about being romantic. They don't. If they are, they are. If they aren't, they aren't. They're thinking more base than that. You know, he's trying to figure out whether there's a chance they're going to have sex at some point. That's what he's trying to figure out. Romance is not part of the equation at this point. I think it's important we talk about, because they mentioned Aruba, the new motion that was just filed yesterday by the Commonwealth, because they believe that the conversation from Bukhenik and the foundation within which all of those texts were reported, right, which includes this reference that she was mad because John O'Keefe was getting busy with one of the Sullivan sisters during that group vacation in Aruba. Now the Commonwealth says, you've opened the door. We now get to get into that, because there was a pretrial motion that said, no, we are not going to get into the Sullivan sisters. One of the few things that Judge C prohibited the Commonwealth from pursuing, one of the few. And so now the question is, has she seen enough, heard enough through this testimony and the texts to open that door and let the Sullivan sisters pour through? Because they're proposing the two Sullivan sisters testify. One of the juveniles who was obviously there on the trip, and I think it was the girl. And then I thought there was one other person, but primarily the Sullivan sisters. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so let me just first thank Harsh Time 777. And
Did she say you look hot?
lovely.
Did she write that?
You look lovely today. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the compliment. All right, so I think Hank Brennan is out of his effing mind, okay? I mean, so what? So
You
her
just learning
confidence-
that?
So her confidence is down. I say Alan Jackson's ready for it. Look, he knows that by getting into that text that he could open the door, okay? He knows that, all right? I think he's prepared for it. I think what he didn't want was them to come out first in their case, right? He wanted, before he could get those texts out so that they're being in an explanatory mode. We're going to actually post a new song that Oasis Cat wrote about this, where I think that Hank Brennan is out of their mind. I say bring it, because in those texts, she's talking about a lot of things. She's talking about the fact that it's complicated. She hasn't left because there's kids involved and she cares for the kids. And that John he took on this role, but he really wasn't ready for this role. I talked a little bit about it this morning. And he wasn't ready for the role. And and remember, he woke up the morning of the 28th. It was still with a hangover. And I think she thought that unless she was around and she was trying to spoil them and all that type of stuff, that the kids wouldn't be taken care of. And she just didn't want to leave, but she wanted to leave because clearly this relationship wasn't going anywhere. She was, as somebody once put it, came in during COVID. They had dated once before. She was a babysitter with benefits. And so I think that Jackson has framed this. So now if the Commonwealth brings in the Sullivan sisters and say what they wanted to say, what was the word it was exactly used? This shows that this was a domestic violence homicide. So he's going back to trying to say this is a murder, right? I thought for now he had dropped it. For him to say it's a domestic violence homicide, he should know that, hey, there was likely a not guilty in that first count. And when a prosecutor overreaches, it is the best thing for a defense. People that have domestic violence homicides know that she didn't purposely back in to kill him. And that's what he has to argue based
Well,
on.
I think that's a
Hoping it.
huge, if that's what he does, that's a huge mistake. If he thinks this is going to change this case from what it seems it could be, and that is an unintentional crime, if anything, to an intentional crime, he's nuts. This little nugget of information, I mean, this is the goal. We're going to take the Sullivan sisters issue and we're going to create such animosity between Karen Reed and Officer John O'Keefe that she intended to kill him. Based on that one little extra nuance of information, I just think it's such an overreach. We know the charge is an overreach, but trying to use this piece of evidence to get them there is crazy. It's just it will not work. It just won't work.
Yeah, so we're going to post that song the Racist Cat did. I don't know if we can post our analysis with it. I'm not sure. But I think you're out of your mind, Hank Brennan. But go ahead and try and do this.
We'll see. And, he's got to get the help of the judge first.
No, well,
I'm
that
saying
may not be hard.
That could happen.
Yeah.
Let's see. Before I jump back in this, Letteros by Bedro. Funny, after Karen yelled at the sister, she apologized and paid for the entire dinner. She also offered to pay for the rest of their hotel stay. It will backfire. I think there's no doubt. And it's, if I were the judge, I think she was right to deny its inclusion initially. She should deny it again.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer King, thank you very much for your donation to us. We really appreciate it.
Last page of that series of texts.
Yes.
At the very top, could you read what you write in the blue bubbles starting at the top?
Haha, stranger, stranger.
And then what was the response from Miss Reed?
Hey, I was at the Hilly all weekend.
And what did you respond back with?
I have not heard from you.
And by the way, if you look at the next date down, what's the date underneath I have not heard from you?
The 23rd.
So this would have preceded the 23rd, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then on the 23rd, and by the way, after you texted, I have not heard from you, she did not respond, correct?
She did not respond.
Then on the 23rd, she did respond with phone works, correct?
In the arrows, like both ways.
Right.
Yep.
And then what did you text after that?
I just said, thought you were all set.
And how did she respond?
She said, we're talking? No.
That's all I have for that.
Okay.
Let's bring the lights back up. So clearly with that last text, her response was, in response to you saying, thought we were all set, she said, with talking, no, correct?
Yep. Yes.
Did that indicate to you that with flirting, yes, we're all done?
No, I didn't read anything into it.
Okay. But you did read where she said, with talking, no, correct?
Yes.
And then you responded, how?
The only thing missing is let's just be friends. That's what's going on here at best. Let's be friends.
Discworld Edgewitch
sure?
says, I do not see any
Did she respond?
indication of DV in those texts. There's no real threats, no isolation from social supports, nada. And I'm currently writing a dissertation on intimate partner violence. Well, it'd be
Wow.
interesting to have you on Discworld Witch. Maybe we'll reach out. That's valid.
Yeah, that would be something.
That'd be great. And Donnie, Donnie gifted 5 Justice Serve TV memberships. Thank you very much, Donnie. But that'd be interested to know more about that, especially if the court lets it in. And maybe you can come on and talk about it here. Reach out to us at justiceservetv@gmail. We'll see if the court lets it in. Maybe you can talk about it more.
Yeah. Even
We'd
if
love to
not,
have-
even if it doesn't come in, it'd be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, be an interesting discussion. Thank you, Discworld Edge Witch. Sorry.
Oh, look at this. This is like a new toy to me, and I hadn't realized how they brand some of the parts. We do some that sometimes our own. We'll brand different topics. This helps me scan through here. So don't mind me while I just continue to play around with this thing.
No, it's yeah.
No, not that I recall.
Now, you've already indicated, and I don't think we need to go into a lot of detail about this, but I want to ask you just in general, the mood at the waterfall was good spirits, correct?
It was great. Band was playing.
You did not see any sort of tension between John and Karen?
I did not.
Nobody seemed overly intoxicated?
No.
You had several drinks before you even got to the waterfall, right?
I think it was 3 to 4.
Did you drink additionally at the waterfall?
I did, yes.
Did you drink whiskey or beer or what?
Whiskey.
Okay. How many do you think you had?
I couldn't put a number on it. At least
And ultimately you left from there in your personal vehicle and drove over to, that's the Jeep, drove over to the waterfall, correct?
I drove over to the waterfall.
I'm sorry,
I was at the waterfall.
left the waterfall, drove over to 34 Fairview.
I did, yes.
When John walked in to the waterfall, were you already there?
Yes.
He greeted you, you indicated, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Karen walked in with him.
Yes.
But she did not greet you, did she?
I think they kind of went like that in different directions.
Right.
Yes.
Did she greet you?
No.
Right. So she walked over toward the corner of the bar, and John came over and greeted you, and then walked over and joined her, correct?
Yes.
Karen didn't stop what she was doing once she was over in the corner of the bar and come over and say hi to you.
I didn't have any interaction with her that night, no.
So safe to say that throughout that evening, once she was sidled up next to John O'Keefe or friends that she was with, she never turned back around and came over and even acknowledged you, correct?
That's correct.
So she basically ignored you the entire evening.
That's not how I interpret it, no.
I didn't ask you how you interpreted it. I asked you what she did. Did she ignore you or did she pay attention to you?
Objection.
You can go ahead and answer that. Did she ignore you?
No.
So she paid attention to you. Came over and said hello, shook your hand, gave you a hug.
Well, just because somebody didn't come over doesn't mean they ignored you.
Did she do those three things?
Hug, what was the other
Did she
thing?
say hello, shake your hand, give you a hug?
No, she did not.
No, she didn't do any of those things, did she?
No.
It was like you didn't even exist.
I think that's dramatic. No, I don't look at it that way.
Did she ignore you or not?
No, she did not ignore me.
So what did she do to not ignore you?
She was
What's
work.
her interaction with you?
Can I answer now?
Sure.
She, in my opinion, she was working the room, talking to people, saying hello, catching up.
Right. The one person she did come over to talk to and say hello to and catch up with is you.
Well, I don't know that I was the only person, but I was one of the people that she didn't say hello to. Yes.
Treated you sort of like a stranger.
I don't feel that way. No.
She actually positioned herself away from you at the other end of the table on the opposite side in the corner. Isn't that right?
I don't know where she was all night. No.
Did
I
that
don't know.
upset you that she ignored you or didn't pay attention to you?
Did not feel ignored and didn't upset me at all.
But it bothered you enough to send her a text, didn't it?
No, it was a flirtatious text. It was just, that was it.
It bothered you enough to send her a text that said, with 6 M's behind it.
Okay.
And, well, correct?
Well, it wasn't like that. It was, well, that's it.
Just, well, like a well in the ground.
I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think you do too, sir. You meant, well, when are you going to pay attention to me?
No, that's not correct.
Well, why are you ignoring me?
It's not correct.
Well, am I chopped liver?
Objection.
All right, that's sustained. Mr. Jackson, let's move on.
At the end of the night, the group basically discussed going back to Brian Albert's house. Is that right?
There was discussion at the table of like, were we going to go to the pizza shop or were we going to go somewhere else? And ultimately it was 34 Fairview.
Before you left, just so we're clear, when you texted, well, she ignored that text too, didn't she?
Can you say that again?
When you texted her, well, at Waterfall, she ignored that text too, correct?
Well, that was the only text I sent that night to her. Yes.
Okay.
She didn't respond.
That wasn't my question.
She didn't respond. There you go.
Well, I don't know.
It's, you know, it really starts to feel, it's almost kind of sad. Like, you know, he's trying to keep whatever it was alive, and it's clearly on life support at best. I mean, he's going to lose the entire friendship. Hey, I've got a breaking news, and I can't get to our breaking news sounder, so let me just read it. This is you know, we were talking about earlier, the buffer zone, the First Circuit's decision. How is that going to play out? Is Judge C going to do something, or are they going to sit on their hands? Because they've been told by the First Circuit, the buffer zone as currently outlined is unconstitutional. What are you going to do about it? So now we get this notice from the court. This comes from the First Circuit. It is to Judge Canoni in her official capacity. And it says that, pardon my, it's a very blurry version here. The court is in receipt of the plaintiff appellant's emergency motion for clarification and to enforce the court's May 9th, 2025 judgment. That's the one in which they said it's unconstitutional. Defendant's appellates shall respond to the motion within 48 hours of the issuance of this order. In their response, defendant and appellee are directed to address specifically, this is to the court, Judge Canoni, what steps the prosecution in Commonwealth versus Reed, blah, blah, blah number, has taken, if any, in response to the issues raised in the per curiam decision issued May 9th, again, the court order saying it's unconstitutional, particularly in light of the fact that the challenged state court memorandum of decisions and orders was adopted in response to the Commonwealth's motion for a buffer zone. So all the gobbledygook there basically says you got 48 hours, Judge, figure it out, tell us what's going to happen. And then the only thing they didn't write down here was the or else. Which would mean they're going to step in and do it for us. So 48 hours. That tells us more than we knew moments ago.
Law Nerd Amber, get the one Just to Serve TV membership. Thank you, Law Nerd Amber. We appreciate it. Okay.
I don't know what her mindset was. If she purposely ignored the text or she didn't see it, I don't know. I didn't read into it.
Did she ignore the text, Mr. Higgins?
I don't know.
Did she respond to the text?
She did not respond.
It's kind of sad. Don't you think
So
it's
when-
kind of sad? Let go.
No,
dude.
I don't think it's sad at all. I think
You don't think it's sad?
Johnny
You don't think that this guy's clinging to whatever there might be is sad?
you don't think that he was rejected in the past at any time? I mean, remember,
I
she
don't
went to
know.
his house at some point in this relationship and took you up on it. So then she started ghosting him. That's what I viewed at. Now, whether something happened at this house
and
or
and
whatever,
that's
I
what
don't know.
he should be going like, yeah, no big deal. I'm moving on. But he's
Right.
clinging to something. I don't know what.
Or did they leave before you did?
I don't know.
You said you were the first one back to Brian Albert's house, correct?
Yes,
Safe to say you were one of the first ones to leave.
I was the first one to leave
Waterfall.
the waterfall. Probably.
I mean, if you're if everybody's hurting out and you're the first one to get there, you're probably among the first to leave, correct?
Most likely.
Okay. You never personally discussed going to 34 Fairview with, certainly not with Karen Reed, did you?
No.
And you never discussed it with John O'Keefe either, did you?
No.
You didn't say goodbye or walk over and give John a big hug or anything like that?
No.
Acknowledgement, did you?
No.
You just left.
Well, that's what everybody was doing, just leaving.
Okay. You too, correct?
I did leave, yes.
And all you knew that at that point, all you knew was that you were going over to 34 Fairview. You did not know who else was invited over to 34 Fairview.
My impression was that it was an open invitation, and I planned on heading over there.
But you did not know who else was coming.
I had no idea who was coming.
And you didn't say goodbye to John, correct?
I don't think I said goodbye to anybody.
And you didn't talk to him about coming over to 34 Fairview.
No.
Yet at 2:20 in the morning, you texted John O'Keefe, you coming here, correct?
At 2:20,
Sorry, 12:20.
I did.
And that had 3 question marks behind it, correct?
Yes.
Did you text Karen about coming over to 34 Fairview?
No.
So at 12:20 a.m., after you left the waterfall and made your way over to 34 Fairview, you were more interested in getting John to come to 34 Fairview than you were to getting Karen to come to 34 Fairview.
Boom.
No,
that's a
that's not how I
boom
would
because
describe that.
all he's been
But you didn't
doing
text
was
Karen.
going after her, right? And now all of a sudden, 12:20, are you coming here to John? That
Yeah.
didn't pop out at me in the first trial as much as it does right now. If you're watching the
And, you know,
second trial.
some would say that he did that because he was getting no response from Karen. And if John O'Keefe comes, Karen's probably coming along as well. He'll have another shot at something. That's an interpretation.
Correct?
No, I didn't.
But you did text John.
Yes.
You've indicated that you took your Jeep, your personal vehicle with a plow on it, over to 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
And you were among the first to arrive because you were doing that thing with the sort of playing around by plowing his driveway.
It was a sweep of the driveway. Yes.
And then you indicated that you parked in front of the house, correct?
I did.
I know you've been over this before, but I'm going to ask you one final time so that it's completely clear. Exactly where was your Jeep in front of that house?
By the mailbox.
Okay. Can we have, with the court's permission, exhibit 66?
His Jeep was by the
This is a
mail.
graphic representation of 34 Fairview, not a photograph. Just to orient you, do you see what's depicted in exhibit 66?
Yes,
Do you recognize it?
I do.
You see the mailbox, which is out right there.
Yes.
Okay. Where was your Jeep in relation to that mailbox?
So the back end of the Jeep, the rear, would have been about around equal with the mailbox, and I was not blocking the driveway.
Okay, so you would have been about there, correct? If the right edge of that highlight is the mailbox being right there, you would have been about right there on the street, correct?
Well, that would have been the front of the Jeep. We a laser pointer is, it would be the front
So the front of the Jeep is facing the flagpole,
towards Chapman Street, correct.
and the rear of the Jeep was basically even with the mailbox strut or stanchion.
It was definitely past the driveway, yes.
Okay. You indicated the plow was a 6 foot, what inch plow?
I think it was a 6'8", 6
6'8",
foot,
meaning the width.
meaning the width, yes.
How deep is that plow?
How deep?
2 feet, 3 feet, 6 inches?
I mean, it's probably a few inches.
Okay.
It's light duty. It's on a Jeep.
Okay. And it's obviously curved and
Curved.
canted to the right.
No, it wasn't canted at all. It was straight down.
Okay, so it's not like I guess I'm picturing in my mind, I don't know that I've ever seen one, that the front of the Jeep is not parallel to the plow. In other words, it would plow stuff off to the right. Is that not right?
I'm not understanding what you're trying to communicate to me.
How is the plow positioned as it relates to the front end of the Jeep? Is it perfectly parallel to the front end, or is it canted one way or another?
So when you're driving straight locally, where you're not going to worry about overheating the Jeep, I would just have the Jeep plow straight. If I was on the highway for a long distance, I'd be worried about overheating. So I would canter the plow, tilt it up so that air could get through the front grille.
So in other words, you can control it.
I can, yes.
How was it that night?
So
How was it canted that night? Was it straight or canted?
it was straight and straight on.
All right. When you walked into 34 Fairview, you indicated that there were people congregated basically in the kitchen area, correct?
There were some people in the kitchen area, yes.
How many people were at the high top table that you described?
Initially, when I walked in, I believe there was Brian Jr., and he was flanked by one, possibly two females.
And you indicated that basically you were positioned in that area with your back to the door for most of the evening.
I was like I would describe this diagonally across from him and had my back to the door that I had come in, which would be the breezeway door.
But at some point, you had moved out of that kitchen area with Brian Albert, correct?
Well, I briefly went and looked at some photos.
Right. So you moved out of that area with Brian Albert alone to go to a different room.
Yes, and I think his wife, Nicole, might have popped in the room for a second, but it was brief.
Did you have anything to drink while you were at 34 Fairview?
Well, when I got there, they didn't have any whiskey. I believe they might have put a beer or something else in front of me. And, I knew it was going to be a short night there because I just wasn't going to, I'm not a beer drinker.
Wait. I'm not a big drinker. Did he honestly
No.
say that?
He said I'm not a beer drinker.
Not a beer drinker. I thought
Yeah.
he said not a big
So,
drinker. And I'm like,
now-
what?
Now you know if Higgins is around, you know how to get rid of him. Put a beer in front of him. It'll get rid of him.
You've indicated in a prior testimony that you've never been upstairs in Brian's house, correct?
When you say upstairs, like you're talking like second floor?
Correct.
Yes. No.
Okay. You testified to that in a prior hearing. Is that right?
Yes.
In May of 2023.
Yes.
And you said specifically, quote, "I've never been upstairs." Is that
Yes.
right? All right. You understood when you gave that statement that you were under oath.
Yes.
You were telling the truth.
Yes.
Same oath that you took here today, correct?
Yes.
You indicated that the photos that you saw were on the first floor living room area. Is that right?
I believe that's where they were. Yes.
So the only floor downstairs from the first floor would be what?
The basement.
And the only floor upstairs from the basement would be what?
The first floor.
So if someone were to describe going upstairs to look at the photos that you've described on the first floor, where would they have to be to go upstairs to look at those photos?
Are you saying on the first floor?
Correct. If the photos are on the first floor,
Yeah.
and someone said, we went upstairs to look at those photos, where would they have to be?
I guess upstairs.
The people would have to be upstairs?
Well, the photos would be upstairs. Is that what you're saying?
Where are the people? Where would the people have to be to go upstairs to the living room to look at the photos?
I'm not understanding the question.
If the photos are on the first floor, Mr. Higgins,
Yes.
the only floor beneath it is the basement,
Okay.
and someone says, we went upstairs to look at the photos, where would they have to be?
Well, who said they went upstairs?
All right, so Mr. Jackson, you can save this for argument. Next question, please.
If Brian Albert said you went upstairs to look at the photos,
By the
Where would
way, this is an ATF agent, everyone, I should remind you, that got rid of, he may look like he plays dumb, but he got rid of his cell phone and SIM card, went to an Army base where a state, well, shall we say, warrant or order to preserve would not be effective because he knew it was coming, and he got rid of his SIM card and cell phone, but happened to print the extraction just of, if you want to call it that, just of these text messages without the metadata with regard to it. So don't feel so bad for him.
Somebody feels bad for him. There was part of the direct examination. People will remember when he talks about that cell phone and the SIM card, and it was the most bizarre exchange. I think he brought it up again on cross. We may not get to it because we're going to run out of time here, but he's told or reminded, you took your phone, you took out the SIM card, you broke the SIM card, all of this then taken to the military base where you threw it in a bag, which you then threw in the trash. And his response is, well, if I would have done something like that, I would have done it like that. Not acknowledging he did it, but in sort of a theoretical world, if I were to do something like that, yeah, that's how I would do it. What the hell does that mean?
Right. And by the way, when he was interviewed by Bukhenik, he brought an attorney with him. Not that that's a bad thing. I think he probably needed to have an attorney with him. I think that was probably a good idea. The question becomes, well, can he testify in this case, or will his attorney let him, or will they let him plead the fifth in this case? So, because there's some indication that maybe he's no longer an ATF agent. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
just so you know.
I don't know for sure either whether he was, kind of benched or.
Yeah, and remember, he also had a telephone call. It's been the subject of what's on Twitter, for Twitter for the last 2 days. He supposedly went back to the Canton police station and had a telephone call with Brian Albert at a very specific and very important time. Some people are saying perhaps that wasn't him back at the police station. Supposedly he went back there, and that tape didn't appear till when, Michael?
October of 2024. And of course, with the way videos just seem to materialize in this case, I'm suspicious at the outset. Why? How is something like this? This is just your standard basic, camera setup. In fact, we might want to look at that at this point.
Let's look at that. And while you're pulling it up, remember that Brian Albert also destroyed his card, his SIM card, and his cell phone. Okay, so there was something in that phone call they didn't want you to know about, in my opinion.
Let me see if I can find this. I'm mixing my media now. And this is so important because, remember what he testified to doing. Whoops, wrong one. Remember what he testified to doing at the CPD that night, Canton PD. He had to move cars, right? That was part of his weird arrangement. The ATF is a federal agency. Somehow he has an office at the CPD as a courtesy. He wouldn't even acknowledge that. You heard that in the cross exam.
Right.
Come on. So he has an office there and he has keys so he can go and wander around. He said one of his duties, one of his agreements was, hey, if snowstorm is coming, I will move the vehicles.
Right. And he gave in the interview the wrong time for when he was at the station, which is now revealed this time at the station. So, all this could have had an effect last time when that jury, as we believe, was hung on the count 2, but had acquitted on counts 1 and 3 because this case is coming in so differently. We're at week 4 and we still don't have a cause of death in a homicide case.
Let's see if I found the right one or not. Let me zoom.
Back to Canton PD.
Here we go. Let me just get to the spot we're looking for. It's a big chunk.
Yuri.
My God, I'm gonna.
And this is
Bukhenik. Let's see. Okay,
so just for
here we have. Let me get rid of this audio. We're going to talk about this. Okay, so here, of course, is one of the cameras, the main cameras on the outside of Canton PD. So we can see, in this case, when the snowplow man comes in. Let me just increase his speed of arrival. There we go. So here he is arriving in. This is his Jeep with the snowplow on it, which he was just talking about. Whether it's tilted up, tilted down, tilted sideways. It's there it is. Okay, so then there it is. And it was raining, it was snowing pretty good, you got to admit.
Actually, I don't think so.
It's not a whiteout.
That's not a white. They keep saying whiteout.
It's not a whiteout.
When it rains up at my cameras, up at my New York house, I get this with regular rain. I mean, I'm not sure that's snowing pretty good yet. I mean, it's snowing, but I'm not.
And I'm looking at, look at these cars. It's thickened. There's something on there.
But they keep saying it's a whiteout. Look at that. It's not whiteout right there.
Yeah. It's a whiteout if you're from Florida. Then it's a whiteout.
That's true.
For those folks, it's anyway. So here we go. There he is. He's wandering, lumping around. He's going into the facility. Don't really care about what he does in there, so we'll go zooming through that. There he goes. Keeps going. Now there's the backside where there he is again, and he goes in. So then he's walking the halls, blah blah blah, and then he goes back out. There he goes. He was in there about 8 minutes. 6 of it stopped because it's a motion sensitive camera. So there's 6 minutes unaccounted for when he was in what I'm guessing was his office, right? Okay. Then he goes back out to, there he is on the phone where he was doing something, still unclear. Not because why? Don't have a cell phone. So we don't know. So here he is. Now this is the key part here as it compares to his testimony. He's now leaving the building and he's heading, whoops, he's going backwards now. He's leaving the building, heading into the parking lot where he would, in theory, move the cars, right?
Right.
we would expect, if consistent with his testimony, we would now see him moving the cars. Remember, this video didn't surface till October of 2024. And so there's the date on it, just so everybody knows the date and time. 1:35 in the morning. And I don't know if this camera had some glitch in it in terms of the timestamp or not, but it was 1:27 when he got there. It was 1:45 when he left. It's 1:35 on this clip. So there was about that 10-minute period where he wasn't moving cars. This was not there in the last trial to confront with this.
To confront him, right.
To say, dude, what cars were you moving or not moving? Because he could have come up with something. Oh, well, you know, it turned out the snow wasn't as bad as I thought. It turned out the snowplow was going to have plenty of room to get around. I mean, all of those reasons he said he needed to move the cars, he could have danced around. But, you know, in a bizarre way, you know, now that we know all the things that have happened, including a mistrial, this comes back to haunt Brian Higgins instead of supporting anything he might have told the jury.
But the jury may not hear it because if Alan Jackson can't call him because he's worried about what Hank Brennan's doing it, or if this guy takes the fifth, they're not going to hear all this gobbledygook about when he went. And I think that's a disaster. And I think Judge Bevis condoned all this.
And you think he's going to they're going to claim that he's taking the fifth as to everything that he might testify about?
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. I honestly think that's going to happen. Now, but the question then becomes, here's the glitch. If he does, then he's unavailable for subpoena and Alan Jackson can read his testimony from the first trial.
Yeah.
And then maybe
so
introduce
I think he's got him either way. And this guy may be arrogant enough that he thinks he's, you know, he can do it in the second trial and somehow work his way around this video, which is so incriminating. I mean, when you're that specific as to why you went there, and you're saying that to cover for what the other possibilities might be, you were there to talk with somebody on the phone privately, or now you're trying to get your shit together because now it's 1:30 in the morning, 1:27. Whatever may have happened at 34 Fairview is now happened. Right. And you need to talk to the people who can get their act together, get the story straight so that we all have a united front. This is going to be the defense argument. What's going on there? If you weren't moving the cars like you said you were, what the hell were you doing there?
Right. So. Absolutely. Yeah.
So anyway,
by the way, I just want to remind everybody that we will be back at 8:50 tomorrow to stream if there is a trial. If there's not a trial, we'll be back at 6 o'clock tomorrow to run our show for again and answer all of your questions. But before any of you go, I just want to make sure, because we're going to have one quick other update, that you hit that like button. We have almost 2,000 people watching right now. I don't see 2,000 likes there. Do you hate us? Well, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. Like, subscribe. Like, subscribe. I'll keep saying it. Like, subscribe. This is a mini rant. Like, subscribe.
I'm hypnotized.
Like, subscribe.
I'm hypnotized.
Okay. All right. So.
You have an important poker. Is that right?
Yeah, I have my. Yeah, we don't play for money, but it's my Washington D.C. lawyers group, and we talk about the law, and I talk about different cases that I have with them. Before we go, though, Madeira Beach caregiver. Michael, did you do your homework? I'm betting $100 on each person in the Jeep 3 besides.
I know. I began to, and I will now. I will do more of that tonight. The goal was to look at the Jeep, look at the dome light when it came on, and to find a hulking mass of some human in the back.
Yeah, kerfuffle. While you're defining that human mass, Justice Serve TV, the CPD parking lot video, is that a Chevy Traverse that is diagonally parked like Higgins Jeep? I don't know. Suss it out, vet it out. Let us know. What do you think?
I'm just curious. Let me see if I can.
Why don't you
look
at while you pull it, and I'll go to see me.
Which
Sharp.
one? Which vehicle? This one here?
Let's see.
Or the one over there, because that's the one right.
I don't know enough.
I don't know. It's whiteout conditions. I can't tell what it
okay,
is.
you guys, we're putting you on it. Take a screenshot of that. We'll put you back on it. Take a screenshot of that. Well, I put up also Simi Sharp's question for Linda after these videos. Will the Commonwealth call Higgy or leave it there? I don't think the Commonwealth's going to call him at all. They're not calling him.
I don't think the Commonwealth will. They've been using Bukhenik as the conduit for all of these.
They're not calling him. He's trying to stay away. He's trying the case. He's trying to stay. Anything bad, force the defense to do it, and then he tries to take advantage of it. Okay, so that's what I think is going to happen with regard to it. So yes, so take a screenshot and you let us know before tomorrow night. And you can always email us at justiceservetv@gmail.com. But Michael.
Yes. And who knows?
Subscribe?
If we don't have if we don't have any court tomorrow, we'll pick this up where we left off, because this is the guy everybody wants to hear from now. After, and I'm talking about the jury, after having heard what they did through Bukhenik. Obviously, Proctor also tops on their list. So we'll see. We'll find out if they do or not. We'll continue this evaluation and analysis. Good luck tonight. Don't draw to any inside straights.
I'll see if I can find out about my cases and get some. I learned from these lawyers who have tried a lot of more cases even than I have. Some of them were involved in Watergate. All right, like, subscribe, share, notify. And if we didn't get to you, we will get to you tomorrow. We're Justice Served TV together. You have any last final parting words?
Yeah, I do. And don't forget to go to the merch store. I'm Michael Bryant. We'll see you next time. Of course, in the meantime, try to do the right thing.
8:50 in the morning. Bye, everyone.
Riding flames, they charge with mine.